Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're going to be talking about the spell Synaptic Static. Yeah. All right, Sam, my general thoughts. I like this one. Fight me.
No, I think it's cool.
Oh, shit.
Honestly, this is exactly what I ask out of higher level damage spells. So
What level spell is this?
this is a 5th level enchantment spell coming in for the Bard, Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard classes.
And so they make an intelligence saving throw in a, what is it, 20-foot radius?
20-foot radius sphere, same as
20-foot
Fireball.
radius. And if they fail, they take -1. They roll 1d6 and take that off their attack rolls. What else? Saving throws or something?
Attack rolls, ability checks, as well as Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration, which is a bit wordy, but it's good.
Yeah, the attack rolls is what sells it for me.
Oh, for sure.
-1 attack roll is nice.
Oh, it's not just one though.
Minus 1d6 though.
It's 1d6 from all of its attack rolls and ability checks. So like this just sticks around for a minute and just guts somebody for a while. It's good.
Okay. We'll talk more about it.
Okay, great. Can do. So Synaptic Strike is Fireball at, like, if you took all the text that wasn't the -d6 stuff, we're looking at Fireball at 3rd level, right? This is a 20-foot sphere, 86 damage. Some neat upsides to that.
I'm sorry, it has damage? I didn't even see that.
Yeah. Synaptic Strike for a 5th level spell slot is doing 86 psychic damage too.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So we're looking at,
I was impressed with this without even reading the damage. All right, go on.
Yeah, sure. So for this starting out, right, even if you just take it as your damage spell, I think it's super interesting in that this will affect specific creatures and not others, and make it this neat little damage spell that you can't use in all circumstances, right? Because it does say things have to have an intelligence of 2 or higher, which means oozes, undead, constructs, a lot of that stuff just doesn't care about Synaptic Static. If they don't have brain cells, they can't be affected by it. Sure. I think that's nifty. It probably is not going to matter in the vast majority of cases. Most times when you're fighting groups of things, they're like planning and tactical. Most times you would want to use Synaptic Static on things that are making attack rolls. They probably have some amount of knowledge.
You know this beforehand.
Yes, you absolutely.
You don't cast it on these kind of encounters.
Yeah, don't cast it on the swarm of oozes, right? Don't cast this on the gelatinous cube. But in either case, like having to say I have to use a different resource, I think is interesting. Saying like, oh, Synaptic Static doesn't just do everything. Like Fireball kind of does everything. This doesn't always do everything. What's also neat is that unlike Fireball, this doesn't affect the environment. This only affects creatures, which means where we talked before about how Fireball, if you want to mitigate the problems with it as a DM, you could just put them in fire vulnerable spaces, put them in old mine shafts, put them near oil, put them in specific regions like taverns and whatnot.
Or a library, you don't want to burn it down.
Yes, you can put people in places where Fireball is disastrous to them as well as everyone around them. With Synaptic Static, doesn't really work. If you're in the library, this can just be a way to kill all the librarians in 20-foot radius. So, like, if you're playing the evil campaign, or maybe they're evil librarians, this works there.
Evil librarians.
Sure.
Or maybe they're not evil. But then again, the damage. Yeah.
So, like, even without, like, obviously, without the other stuff, this is going to be worse than Fireball to me most of the time. But I think there are some neat little upsides over that I like a lot. But like moving into like what the bonuses are, they're quite good. Muddled thoughts ability being -1d6 to attack rolls and ability checks, Constitution saving throws to maintain concentration. Like those are relevant like across the board. I think the concentration one's going to be the least relevant, as very likely the 86 damage is going to break the concentration, not the -d6 to the attack rolls.
Also, I mean the concentration you're trying to break is going to be from people with higher intelligence scores.
True. I believe this works on itself as well. So I believe that when you cast this, they take the damage, and then after they take the damage by failing the save, they then make the saving throw. So I think they also subtract the d6 from the concentration saving throw to maintain concentration on a spell if they are damaged by this. That's nifty. It has a bunch of neat little things like that. I mean, I don't think you're very often going to be fighting against masses of wizards or even necessarily feel that great casting this on a single wizard, but it's not the end of the world if you do.
Unless you're in a library.
Unless you're in a library and you're fighting a whole bunch of book demons. Curse those book demons and their evil librarian overlords. We're just making an adventure on the fly here, Bob, is show pitch. You should have me come on and we'll build an adventure in 15 minutes of nonsense. It'll be great. It'll be this kind of loose form garbage, but in a sculpted towards adventure format. Anyway,
leave a query in the comments.
Sure. We got the big meat of this that you already pointed to, right? Is the attack rolls and saving throws, or the attack rolls being debuffed. Being able to like hit a bunch of stuff with a fireball is often very good, and being able to then also make all those things that survive it worse at hitting you is great. It being a minus d6 is way better than disadvantage, because while it's applying roughly the same like minus to hit, it's also stacking with disadvantage. So knocking them prone, denying them sight, doing a bunch of other things means you can make it so it's functionally impossible for them to hit. And this helps stack on top of the disadvantage to make that possible, which is great. This spell works in combination with a whole bunch of other class features, a whole bunch of other character options. It works with your fellow party members that are trying to impose the disadvantages and stuff, right? Like this, I talked about it when we talked about Mind Sliver, where the minus a d6 on saving throws was really useful because it didn't, if you were imposing disadvantage on saving throws, they stacked. This is more relevant than that because imposing disadvantage on attack rolls happens constantly, right? Blinds do it, the Protection Fighting Style does it, Vicious Mockery does it. Like there are a whole bunch of ways in this game to disadvantage attack rolls. This gives a minus d6 penalty that's stacked on top of all that, making it, though all of those feel even better. More often than not, people are just now going to be missing flat out, right, substantially more of the time because of Synaptic Static. There really isn't an element of the spell that is bad. It's got 120-foot cast range. That's great. Instantaneous, no concentration. You'll love to see it. Even on Warlocks, it's a 5th level spell slot, which means you don't hate using one of your precious few spell slots on casting into Warlock because you don't have any reason to not upcast it. It's great. This is a genuinely useful, powerful spell.
Yeah, I can't argue with that's the impression I came in with. I was expecting you to argue with me, but no,
it's great.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, you didn't think it dealt damage whenever you went into
it.
it.
I know. I thought it was great without that.
Yeah. With that, it's just it's an all-around very useful spell. I actually am glad to see that it doesn't have upcast scaling either. A lot of spells will just arbitrarily be like, it does more damage as you upcast it, which I find is often just trap because you more often than not I want to cast your higher level spell slots because they're going to do more than an upcast version of it. Like if you could cast this as a 6th level spell that did an extra d6 damage, that's probably not worth it anymore because this effect really is, it's useful. It's not 6th level, 7th level spell slot useful. And the damage extra you're getting isn't really that relevant at that point. But for the whole package, without casting at higher levels, thinking about this in the vacuum as something that's worth a 5th level spell slot, this is great.
Yeah, I kind of wish it didn't have damage because I just want to keep the hostile librarians at bay.
Dude, listen, homebrew version of this that's 3rd level with that effect, and I actually think it's pretty decent too.
Yeah. All right. Are we done talking about this?
We can be. This is, while interesting, it's like a fixed amount of interesting. Any of the spells that are like, it's damage with a condition. It's damage with a condition, and you can talk about how those conditions and
with a few conditions.
But yeah, this does do a couple conditions. That's true, and they're all interesting. 4 out of 5. This spell's great. Okay, I'm being generous. This is a 3 out of 5. This isn't going to reshape the game. This isn't going to like wildly. This isn't that much better than Fireball, right? But it is sometimes better than Fireball.
No, not that much better than Fireball. That gives it a 4 out of 5.
Listen, in some cases, you're just going to want the damage. In some cases, this is worse than Fireball, right? In some cases,
if all you're looking to do is burn down some people, then Fireball takes the cake.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a lot more excited about this one. I'm going to give it the 4 out of 5.
That's great. I think that this spell isn't going to reshape the game. I think as a DM, you're going to have to not really worry too much about building around it or planning around it. And it comes with its own little like release valve of throw low in creatures at them, and they can't. That this spell doesn't deal with it and forces them to use other options. This is a great tool in the toolbox. This is what I actually think this is the power I want all spells to be at, is around Synaptic Static. In that, like, there's clear windows where they're great. There's clear ways to interact with them outside of those windows. They interact with the other party members and your own abilities and features well. Like, the whole spell isn't changing the game. It's not wildly warping things, but as far as the damage spell goes, this is worth it.
You know what I think this spell shines is the scene in the movie where you just need to get everybody's attention. They're kind of hostile towards you, and you say, "Hey, stop it right here! I got something to say."
Yeah, and then half of them die because it did 86 damage.
Some of them die. That's when they know you're serious.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, that's my take on the spell.
That's a great take, Bob. Love it.
Thank you. All right, that was Synaptic Static. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for listening and watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it. A gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.